Damien Hines.
Thank you, Chairman. And Ian Bungard, can I ask you to follow up on the questions that Kevin was asking earlier and Julian as well? So if you take one of your really big YouTubers, I'm probably a bit out of date here, but if you take a PewDiePie or a Jojo Siwa, or feel free to give me a more up-to-date 2020 name, what is your estimate of how much total revenue they make in a year, and how much of that comes from AdSense revenue versus product placement and their own merchandise lines? And how much money would you make out of each of those? Each of those individuals, I should say, rather than, I don't mean out of those product lines.
So, was that question to Ian?
To Ian, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would say Rich is probably the best person to answer around the kind of how our creators monetize. I would say that we are absolutely the thing that we offer. We often talk ourselves, but we are a partnership organization. The thing that we offer is the chance for our creators to find new audiences and find revenue streams. So it's both advertising. We are increasing the amount of merchandise they can do sort of through the channel. But I don't know, Rich, if you want to talk about that more generally.
I think, Mr. Hines, it varies vastly. I think there are a number of different revenue streams for creators or businesses alike. The Global Cycling Network.
So I gave you two specific examples and invited you to comment on one of those, or give me an equivalent, more up-to-date example, not the Global Cycling Network. Thanks.
You can take any business. So take Mr. Bruff, who is a creator in Devon, and he makes educational content, very popular.
Forgive me, I don't know Mr. Bruff, and I might be misjudging him, and I hope he will forgive me if I am. I doubt he is in the category I'm talking about. So everybody knows there's 5 or 10 huge YouTuber stars who make millions, tens of millions of dollars a year. Yep. That's the category I'm talking about, who have their own character identity with young people and can move product, and in some cases have their own product lines selling through multiple retailers. That is the type of person I'm talking about.
And the question being, what percentage of their income comes from AdSense?
First of all, what's your estimate of how much they make in total, and how much of that comes from AdSense revenue, as opposed to those other lines, and how much do you make out of the revenue share from the advertising on them?
So we give them the majority of the advertising share. We give them the majority of the subscription revenue that they make on our platform, both in the UK and abroad. It's impossible for me to give you an answer that categorizes them all, even the top 10, as to how much money they make from YouTube versus their ancillary businesses, because they are so vast. Some are making books, some are making movies, some are are being commissioned into TV shows. Some are have their own shows that they are being commissioned into. So it's so vast, and the array is so broad. I'm so sorry I can't give you a much more clearer answer. The reason I started with GCN is because I do know that a very, very small proportion of their revenue comes from the AdSense account. And I do know that a large proportion comes from their ancillary businesses as well. And I think that's a public number, which is why I was going down that road.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just going back to the individuals, the type of individuals I was talking about. So you can't say what their ancillary revenues are. I get that. You can say what your revenues are on the back of one of those individuals, and know that is then reflective of these product placement deals and the merch deals and all the rest of it. So how much typically would you make on one of those, say, top 5 YouTubers?
So we will not make any money out of the branded content deals that they have.
No, I mean ad revenue.
Again, that varies hugely. It varies whether in line with the advertising market, both here and abroad. It's also a private number. It's a number that is commercially sensitive, and we can't divulge exact details of how much money we're making. But from the AdSense proportion and the subscription proportion, we're giving them the majority. And we seek to grow their audiences so that they can better monetize those eyeballs.
I come on to the medical questions that Giles was talking about, and it's good to hear from Ian that the policy has evolved and improved. But I imagine I'm not the only member of this committee who's been sent a YouTube link from a constituent saying, "Oh, Ms. Tynes, you must look at this. It's proof that pick from your list of list of claims that the coronavirus is made up, that it was." It's planted by the US Secret Service, you name it. And then a link to some apparently convincing sounding person with professor before their name or PhD after it, and an ad that runs before that video. And I accept that you say, you'll take those videos down. How much money do you think has been made on preposterous claim videos before they're taken down?
I think actually about how many videos we took down in Q2, and those videos, the harm is done with those videos when they're actually seen, and the majority weren't seen, and on average they were seen up to 10 times. And just to reinforce and add on to Ian's point, because I do want to make this point clear, we instigate a policy, medical misinformation policy. We bring in expertise from an outside counsel who are able to launch, and then we're able to launch that policy in record time. We then move on to product. And so we raise the voices of authoritative news sources. You'll see in your homepage a COVID-19 shelf, unless you've opted out of it. That's populated with all of the authoritative news organizations from the UK and abroad, and they publish content onto them. You've been seeing the NHS line as well. So we've raised those voices. And Ian, more about
sorry, forgive me interrupting you. Is it a number you publish or could share with us? The amount of ad revenue that's been associated with videos that have then been taken down or in some other way been demonstrated to be misleading. I haven't seen that number, but if you're able to share it with us, it would be helpful to have it in a follow-up letter.
Ian, do you want to interject here on the numbers?
Yeah, so I think I would say is, Rich sort of talking to this, we publish our transparency report every quarter, and that sets out the number of videos removed. So in Q2, because of the reliance on automation, we actually massively increased the number of removals.
Yeah,
up to 11.2 million videos.
It's the revenues, Ian. Sorry, forgive me. It's the revenues I'm asking about.
So when it's removed, obviously the thing I would say is that I haven't got the number in front of me, but I think it was 88% of those 11.2 million videos were removed before they got to 10 views. So the vast majority is not being monetized because it's just simply not. It's being removed well before. Other than that, it might. Forgive me if I got it right wrong. I'll write to committee if that's not quite right. And we'll certainly share the transparency reports. On COVID medical misinformation, of course, there will have been content before our policy was introduced in May, and I'll see if we can get specific on that. And I'm certainly happy to share with you as a follow-up how many COVID videos we've removed globally, because and where there's been monetization there. Okay. I know.
Thank you.
It's very clear.
Just to repeat and to be clear, it's the revenue number I'm asking about, not the number removed. And we'll look forward to your letter. Can I turn now to PSB content, public service broadcaster content? What are the costs for YouTube in serving up a piece of content from the BBC or ITV?
So we public service broadcasters have full access to the interface that allows them to upload the content. We then serve that content, and we're a tech company that ensures that YouTube is on all of the devices and as broadly distributed as we possibly can, so that our partners can find their audiences for their content. Now, I'm not across the exact cost of all of the engineers and infrastructure, but there are costs associated with that. And then there are costs associated with delivering the content as well. So other than that, it's my team's time working with these partners, and that's it.
And what is the ad revenue split currently with public service broadcasters?
So we're an egalitarian platform. So the ad revenue split is the same for them and across as it is across the whole platform, and it's the majority of the content of the revenue they get.
So the percentage split would be the same for, say, the BBC or ITV as it would for some teenager in a bedroom.
Well, that's right. And I think that's important, actually, because I think that YouTube has a huge and burgeoning a creative economic pool of talent underneath it. So I don't think that, GCN or Adam B or any other creator should be getting more than public service broadcasters. In fact, we want to. Our promise is to surface them in a fair and in the fairest possible way.
And what about for news and current affairs as opposed to general content? What's the ad splits for that?
Exactly the same.
Exactly the same. And notwithstanding the fact that I appreciate what you're saying about wanting to stimulate the creative sector and the cycling networks and so on, there is a cost to news generation, to news reporting, isn't there? There's a cost to having correspondence, there's a cost to fact checking, a cost to all the infrastructure that goes with news you can trust.
That's right.
How come that isn't reflected in your formula?
Well, I think when you think about the majority of the money going to them that we make on the platform, that we are paying them a sufficient amount of money. I think that's represented in the content that they put onto the platform, that they choose to put on the platform, and they choose to monetize or not. Now, the BBC don't monetize anything. That's not their goal. They may monetize stuff ex-UK from their studios or their global news piece, but it's very different for ITV. ITV choose to put that content up there, and they choose to monetize it or not and allow us to sell it. We also allow ITV and sales team to sell their content, sell their inventory around their content on the platform as well. So in that way, YouTube provides another tool for them and their sales team to reach an audience they might not have already reached with their own networks.
In your heart of hearts, how long do you anticipate this situation continuing, where you basically get to dictate the ad revenue split for public service broadcasters?
Well, I hope that what's recognised is the contribution to the creative economy that the Guardian make, or the Telegraph make, or that BT Sport make, or that Global Cycling Network make, or that Joe Wicks makes. And I hope that is recognised, and that the egalitarian response or nature of our platform is a good way to facilitate and pay for that economy.
I'm going to read you a line, if I may, from an article in The Economist at the end of last year, December 2019. They were talking about the huge reach of YouTubers around the world. Ben Shapiro, Rezo or Rezo in Germany, Felipe Neto in Brazil, all of these very interesting and talented young people. But they clearly don't have the same journalistic editorial values and systems and processes as the BBC or the Guardian or the Telegraph. And that's even apart from like the more general interest YouTubers who are perfectly at liberty to drop in an opinion here and there into their broader piece. The line from The Economist was this: teenagers are, in short, getting their news from other young people who largely express their personal opinions and are barely any better informed than themselves. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a huge generalization. I think that we've said that public service broadcasting content and the news elements of public service broadcasting content and other news media organizations in the UK and abroad is growing faster than the platform growth. So they are finding audiences. Indeed, 60% of those audiences that they find don't come from the algorithmic recommendation tools, and less than 20% come from searching. So we're growing the audience for those news publishers in the UK and abroad. Now, I don't know who they're referring to in that article, but if they've got a large and loyal fan base, a large and loyal audience, there's something to be said for what they're propagating. So
I think the people they were referring to were the names I read out of these influencers, but these aren't just. I think I'm not familiar with the Brazilian market in that detail, but I think these are not just merchandising influencers, but also political opinion influencers, and that's what they were referring to. Is the difference between, I mean, in the news media in general, there's been some shift from news to views. I think that the point they were making was that on YouTube, and particularly for that demographic, that shift has been turbocharged by your channel.
Okay.
Do you think news brands are important, Richard?
I do.
Do you?
Yes.
And do you worry about the trend to people saying, well, if you say to someone, where did you hear that? The trend to people saying, I saw it on Twitter, or I saw it on YouTube, or the trend to people believing something only when they've seen it pop up a lot of times on one of those panels, because frequency makes familiarity.
Well, I think what our role is, and sorry, the lights are turning off in my room. What our role is to raise the authoritative news sources, authoritative medical information on our platform. That's our role. Now, there are creators out there who do get a loyal fan base, and they may propagate views as well. But the key thing is users are able to find, or viewers are able to find, authoritative news on our platform, and we are doing something about that with the COVID-19 shelf and the NHS placement on our home screens.
Final question from me, Richard. I get all that and your moral sense, but given the dominant position of YouTube with the network effects that you have, being able to find quality news is only part of the story. Quality news also has to be paid for, and that comes from a fair share of ad revenue that reflects the cost of delivering that news. Mm-hmm. So will you commit to providing a fairer share of the ad revenues to public service broadcasters, and by the way, to other legitimate news brands, so they're able to carry on doing that?
I think we already do commit, and we already do give a fair share, and that's demonstrated by the engagement and the content that they do put on our platform.